Very good afternoon again. Welcome to uLaw webinar. And today's topic is going to be on the unsung heroes, the dashboard, the contacts, QuickView, and calendar. Though the name and the nomenclature is very uLaw-centric, we want to take this opportunity to also cover components of what they mean with regards to a practice management software. But we're going to be using the uLaw reference, obviously, throughout the presentation. I do want to let you know that this webinar is not accredited for CPD. We do have a CPD accredited session towards the end of the month for our disbursements demystified. This is, though, a very new topic that we're going to be talking today. We've never touched upon this topic before, so I'm hoping to make this as interesting as possible. And please feel free to use the chat window to ask any questions that you may have during the presentation or at any time. And today's webinar or conversation is going to be about these features and functionalities that you find in uLaw and potentially in other practice management software, and how they rally around a legal accounting or a legal practice management software around matters. Okay, so we've always spoken about matters and accounting, but we're going to be touch upon these different menu options and components that they really mean, and is there even a use for that? And if it's so, we're going to discover why they were built to begin with and how they are going to be very useful for you as you use uLaw. As I mentioned, every uLaw webinar does have an agenda, and as I mentioned in today's agenda, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into the dashboard, contacts, QuickView, and calendar. Talk about how these features value add to your overall uLaw experience, and these are features that we find that are not necessarily used often, or there are certain hidden gems within these features that we'd like to discover and showcase the value of such features and how it can still be very beneficial to you in your practice. I'm going to run through the presentation and then actually use a live uLaw example of walking you through these different components, as we always do. So the dashboard is traditionally your landing page. When you log into uLaw, this is most traditionally your landing page. You can obviously customize it by using our settings tab, and we are building a separate webinar that only focuses on settings. But today's context in regards to the dashboard, these are widgets. These are dashboard widgets, and these are quick and easy way to remind you of what you need to get done for a period of time. It could be for today, it could be for the coming week. So it's a reminder system for tasks to be accomplished. You can mark certain tasks as upcoming to-dos within a matter, and you will find them show up under your dashboard here. We're going to actually look into a demo, so I'll showcase it then. It's an easy reminder system of the matters to be docketed. So when you look at our upcoming events dashboard item, you're going to have a color code associated with that as well. And the color coding actually has a meaning associated with it. So if you have a billable docket in the past, you're going to see that in red, indicating that, here's a docket that you can make money on. It's something that you should have done. You haven't done it yet. It's a quick reminder. Invoices to be raised. This is probably the most used dashboard item in uLaw today, and it's called the invoice pending matter. So anytime you've docketed the time, so let's say you've graduated from the not being able to docket to having docketed the time, but now that you've docketed the time, you're obviously eligible to raise an invoice, to either move money from trust to general, or to accept a client payment. Regardless, the invoice becomes that natural next progression, and it becomes that logical next step. It is that formal document of being able to showcase your effort. And the invoice pending matter provides a list of all the matters for which you've done the dockets, but you've yet to raise an invoice, and you're eligible to do that. So the invoice pending matters would show you that. What is the dashboard also used for? The dashboard is used to navigate to the most recently modified contacts and matters. Okay, so let's say working on a very interesting matter, and it's a Friday, and you've done a lot of hard work, and let's go one step further, and maybe you're taking a week's vacation, and you come back after that weekend. The recently modified matter is going to allow you to jump right into that matter that you were working on that Friday afternoon. Okay, so simple, easy ways to navigate within uLaw in the context and in a very meaningful way. The dashboard, part of the dashboard setting is also our analytics. Our analytics is one of our newer features, and we kind of associate it as a dashboard item, but it's separate and different from the dashboard, the name that you see right when the landing page that you see right on the top left. The analytics is a way for us to have a deeper dive into your business, understand who are the top paying customers, where is the money coming from, and we've done a separate webinar on analytics, and we're going to be repeating that moving forward. But as part of the settings and how you can configure the uLaw experience, they kind of go hand in hand. So just as a quick reminder, the dashboard element is a quick and easy way to remind you to do what needs to get done to make you that money, and it's an easy way to navigate you to the contacts and matters within uLaw. Okay, now let's move along. Very chronologically after the dashboard, you've obviously seen our contact screen or contacts menu feature. And we've had a lot of questions with regards to the contacts. Fundamentally, the contact is used to create new clients or contacts, right? So, we talk about every time a new client walks into your office or wants you to represent him or her, you add that contact as a client, maybe associate them as a ghost client. The contacts panel also allows you to create your own groups. The meaning of the group is an easier way for you to classify your contacts so that's easier for retrieval. So you may not necessarily remember an individual by their name, but you may remember that they were actually a representative of your opponent. So if, let's say you've saved that information and added them to that particular group, then it's easier for you to navigate and search for that individual's name, contact, by looking or referencing their group. Okay, so you can add individuals into these different groups, and uLaw gets you started with a basic set of groups, and you are able to configure and customize additional groups as you go along. So we have clients who create additional groups, like clients in Mississauga, clients in Toronto, clients in Ottawa, in British Columbia. We have clients who actually have groups for individual cities that they represent clients in. So the groups are a fun, easy way for you to classify your contacts and then search for them and retrieve that information quicker. You obviously do have a very fast and a very intense search feature with the uLaw, where you just type in the alphabets of the first name or last name and it does a names match. But there are times when you associate an individual based on how you know them in the group rather than their name, in which case the groups come in very handy. And you are able to delete them as you create them as well. Okay, so we're going to be walking you through an example of how do you create a contact, how do you create a group, etc. And what else is the contacts used for? You use the contacts panel once you've created these contacts, and these contacts, let's say, have a name, a first name, last name. They have a lot of information that you can capture about this contact. They obviously have an address, especially if it's a client. The Law Society does provide the rules that govern how you enter a contact. Address becomes a very important component of that contact information. A mailing address especially becomes very important so that you can communicate and have that going back and forth between you and your client. But also if you bring in the contact name and addresses of other parties within, let's say, your ecosystem, you are now able to use the contacts panel to save that information one time and be able to associate that contact as additional parties within your matter. A great example, again, would be a representative of an opponent, which is a party type, additional party type. I have to stress upon that. So let's say you come across this representative, this person who represents your, quite often you come across this individual, Andy Church. Let's say you save Andy's information one time with his address. Let's say next time you have another matter, and the first time it was a POA matter, and the next time it's maybe an LATB matter, and it's again Andy who's representing the opponent, then it's easier for you to generate forms by just associating Andy as an additional party. You don't have to fill out his information. uLaw does the rest for you. Okay, so it's adding information, but then using that added contact information and being able to associate it with additional parties as well. You're also able to repurpose contact information for billing. So the mailing address becomes technically the address to which the invoice is raised to. So you've got your client's name followed by their address. And anytime you generate, let's say, an envelope, which I'll show you within the contacts, the mailing address is what gets used. And we're also going to be touching upon today, in addition to all of this within the contacts, you have some very easy, simple ways in which you can generate insights as well as take actionable reports and items for those individual contacts. We're going to walk you through all of that. Moving along, then we've covered dashboard and contacts. The QuickView, it's a very simple, easy feature. It's a very robust, fast way for you to search for any matter-related information in uLaw. Okay, so there's a bunch of fields that we generate in this QuickView, but you are able to classify, as you know, your matters as active, closed, and archived. And QuickView gives you the ability to search for matter-related information across these different statuses for a particular status or vice versa. And it's a free text-based search. So let's say all you know about that particular file is the first two alphabets. That's all you need to type in the search, and we automatically retrieve that information. Or if all you know is the client name, you really don't know the matter what it is, you can just type Adam Brown or Adam, and it would actually bring up everything with a quick name match. So it's a very easy, fast way to retrieve information. You can also export that data into an Excel format if you needed to review it offline, to have a quick view of all the matters that you're working on right now. This is a quick and easy way for you to search and export data as well. And we're going to be touching upon one of the hidden gems, which is a work in progress report, which is within the document generation component of QuickView. And the work in progress typically tells you where you are with regards to your work for that week or over a date range and any unbilled matters that you may have. So that was quick and easy with QuickView. And one of the definitely unsung heroes of uLaw is the calendar. Now, calendar in general, from a practice management perspective, plays a significant part in being able to remind you of right from court dates to the very important meetings and dates that you need to have your focus on top of. With the advent of technology, we started off with a web-based calendar, and now with the advent of our uLaw app, you are now able to synchronize between the web version of uLaw to the app version of uLaw. And especially if you have the uLaw app on a phone, the uLaw app allows you to synchronize the calendar items that you have on uLaw to your local phone, and that way it takes advantage of the local phone's, be it Android or iOS, to do its native thing of reminding you of those meetings and of those court dates. Okay. With the calendar, you obviously have a weekly, daily, and monthly view. You can set what your default view should be within your settings. Calendars are also color-coded, similar to some of the dashboard components. So if there is an event in the past, it's going to show it to you in red. You are able to, as you docket away your time, those dockets are made available in your calendar. And at some times when you do find that as a hindrance, you're obviously able to hide those time dockets and only look at your personal time. So the calendar plays the part of both your time dockets, calendar for your time dockets, as well as for your personal time. A very common question about the calendar is whether it can synchronize with other calendars, and the quick answer is yes. We facilitate the synchronization of our uLaw calendar to any third-party calendar by clicking the sync button. We also give you the flexibility to choose the date range for when you want to synchronize it. And with the uLaw app, it makes it that much more easier and faster. Now, besides this basic time management feature of calendar, a lot of our clients have started to take advantage of the very interesting reports and documents that we showcase which are time related. The reason why it's there in calendar is all because it's time related, whether it's the timesheet or whether it's the client summary, the service summary, or a combination. It gives you the insight about how your time is being used. You can also plan ahead. We have clients who use our calendar to necessarily plan their week ahead. So they can put their dockets, plan their time ahead, and they generate the client and service summary, which is going to tell them, this is what you've planned to do over the next 5 days, and these are all the clients for whom you have set out to docket and work for. So uLaw is way more powerful than just being used as a mundane calendar for time management. It can also be used to manage your day, week, and month. And with that, I'm going to move to an actual live session of uLaw. I do notice that a lot of the participants today are uLaw clients, but if there are others, we are a Canadian legal accounting and practice management software, and we highly encourage you to visit our website if you have any clarifications or you want to try us out. I'm going to quickly switch gears into my uLaw account, my very famous ulawpractice, and we're going to cover each element as I demonstrated in my presentation today. So we're going to spend the next 30-40 minutes to actually showcase what that means. So I have a very configurable or customizable dashboard. I could have 5 elements. Each of these squares are what we call as elements or widgets. For my personalization, I have only 5. I could have up to 6, or I could only have only 1, and that's all governed within my settings. I could have my own color combination. So under settings, under dashboard, little cool things that you could do is change the color of your overall dashboard. You can also determine the range of time for which you want the information to be displayed. Because it's all time bound, you could say, give me all the information about everything that's happened over the past week, or you can go up to 6 months in uLaw, which is a very powerful aspect to uLaw's dashboard. This can now remind you of things that you've not done over the last 6 months. I would traditionally keep it to a week, so you're always catching up and being up to date. It's one of those settings options. As I said, it's tightly coupled with our analytics, so you can determine how many such analytical widgets or elements you want per screen. And then comes the interesting aspects of the dashboard itself. So as you can see, you have 6 or 7 default dashboard items, modified contacts, matters, events, upcoming to-dos events, and you can decide the order in which you want to have these widgets. So maybe I want to shift this a little bit. I want the matters first, maybe want the contacts next. Why don't I do the to-dos next, and maybe the invoice pending matters, and then comes any upcoming events. So I've kind of reshuffled it, if you will. I can always add a 6th element, and I can say I probably want to do the most recently modified events as well. With those, I hit save, and now you're going to notice that my dashboard is now personalized for my experience now. It's going to be gray. It's now going to have 6 dashboard elements. Okay, so it's very personalizable, very easy to use, and each element has its own purpose. As I mentioned earlier, it gets you to where you need to get to. So I was working on this particular test refund issue, or let's look at the criminal matter for Alex Johnson, and it also gives you the insight that it was last modified on Thursday, Jan the 12th, which was yesterday. You click on the link, and it takes you to that matter right away. Okay, so let's say we're working on this Alex Johnson criminal matter. After a long weekend, you're not searching for it, just a quick and easy way. Again, this is not rocket science, but as you get busy doing what you do, these are little subtle things that can go a long way to save you time and that frustration of searching for information. Let's say you've added a new contact, or let's say it's a legal firm or a law firm where multiple users are collaborating together. You also get the insight of what the others are working on. So maybe your legal admin just added a new client and you've not had a chance, but you log in and you are able to see this new modified contact. And you're like, interesting, I've never seen this Stephen Jonas. And then you notice that maybe it was your admin or someone else in the firm that's actually added that information. Okay? So that's what the most recently modified contacts are for. It takes you to your contact right away. Upcoming to-dos. So this is directly related to your matter screen. So anytime you're in a particular matter, when you're docketing your time away, you do have the opportunity, let's do a new docket. As you notice, your default docket talks about the duration of that docket. It tells you, all right, give me how long did you spend on it, tell me how much you want to bill it. But sometimes it allows you to also plan ahead. So you can always say, you know what, I want to set myself for a quick to-do. I'm going to say meeting to discuss file. And I'm going to schedule this for the following week. So maybe on the 17th, I could do that. And this is very particular to this matter. Okay, so I'm just going to save it. It's not going to go on my calendar. Or it could be also a little note for yourself. You could say, do homework on this file. So this could also be a little to-do for yourself. That's not necessarily time-bound, or it can be time-bound as well. So that's the flexibility that we offer you. So it's kind of a little post-it for yourself. So anything that you put on that to-do ensures that comes up on the upcoming to-dos here. So when you come back and log in back into uLaw, we have clients who just work off this checklist. So as you can notice, there's a third meeting that's in red, and that's because for this Adam Brown test refund matter, I had planned to do something today earlier at 8:54, and I've just forgotten to mention that to uLaw. You can actually do it from right here. You can just click that little arrow key. You can say, yes, I did do that meeting. And you know what? You can go one step further by just docketing that time if you do choose to. You can say, you know what? I'm going to say I spent the 1 hour, and I'm going to charge the client my 1 hour. And let me go ahead and click Save. Now that does two things. It obviously, once it saves the calendar, it's going to take that item off your to-do, off your checklist, one less thing to do. But if I actually go into that particular matter for Adam, you're going to notice that it's automatically docketed that time right from the dashboard. You didn't even have to go to the matter. It docketed that time right from the dashboard. And I'm going to use that example for my next widget. Once I docketed the time for Mr. Adam Brown, that just rolled into an invoice pending matter dashboard. You can see how the information flows from one thing to another within uLaw. So it was an upcoming to-do. It was a matter docket that you had to do. You docketed the time. We reminded you to do it. You did it. And now we're reminding you for the next thing. Now that you've docketed, obviously you can raise an invoice, right? And that's exactly what the matter tells you as well. It's an invoice pending. And that's what this particular widget tells you, invoice pending matter. As I mentioned, it lists all the matters for which you've docketed the time but failed to raise an invoice yet. These are all your different matters. Okay? And the further away from when it has to be done, I guess the darker the color gets. So let's take this example of the test refund issue for Adam Brown. So you come in, you're like, oh, yes, that is correct. I have not raised the invoice. I click on it. I'm taken directly to that matter. And now I know I have to raise an invoice. Now let's look at this. So let me do what I have to do. Let me come in here, raise an invoice. I want to do the preview. I'll click invoice. And as you know, it's a two-step process in uLaw to raise an invoice. You wait for it and you hit the download button. Two things happen. One, within the matter, the status changes to no pending invoice. Okay, no surprises there. But interestingly enough, you're going to notice the test refund issue was taken off your checklist. So that's how the dashboard works. It's a very continual, progressive feature and function that allows you to stay on top of your matters, get the work done on time, raise the invoice on time, and get paid on time. Okay? And the recently modified events are obviously capturing every aspect of what you've done in uLaw. Okay? So here's that initial client meeting with Adam Brown. It was just docketed. The second client meeting was docketed. So this keeps a track of everything that you've done within uLaw. And if there are any upcoming events, let's assume, as I mentioned, uLaw's calendar can be used not only for your time dockets, it could also be used for your personal time. So maybe you want to set up a lunch meeting with a friend that you mark within your calendar. That is made available within your upcoming events. Because an event is an event is an event, regardless of whether it's time-bound or docketable or not. So let's take a quick example. So if you look at this opportunity here, which says lunch, you can see it's not associated with any matter or any client. Anytime you see a name, if I say meeting with Melina, I click on the little arrow key, and the fact that it doesn't have any dockets associated with it, it just takes it off that checklist. But if it was associated with a client meeting, so for Gloria Stephen, had scheduled to have a client meeting, it prompts you because it is associated with the matter. It's smart enough to know that maybe it was a docketable time that you set yourself up to. So once you schedule that and say, yep, thank you for reminding me, that's going to be taken off that checklist. And there you go. So that's the dashboard in a nutshell. It again reminds you of things that you need to get done so that you can stay on top of your matters, and it also helps you identify areas of revenue. Okay? And the settings is where you would go in to customize it and configure it and make it yours. Let me go back to my uLaw color of maroon. And again, if there are any questions that you have with regards to the dashboard, please feel free to use our chat window. I'm going to move along to contacts. I'm going to spend some time on our contacts because this is probably one of the most important features in uLaw. It certainly is a starting point, but there are many features and functionalities within this section that sometimes gets unnoticed. As I mentioned, let's say there's a client that wants you or to represent him or her. The first thing you would do is you would go into new contact, as you probably know, and add them to clients. Before I do that, I'm going to kind of give you a lay of the land. We spoke about how you can create new groups. This is where I would go in and create new groups. uLaw by default gives you the groups up to tenants. So we give right from contacts to friends, co-workers to tenants, and then everything below that you see are the groups that have been created by our clients. Come in here and you say new group, Toronto criminal. And it's very easy in uLaw to associate a contact to a group. Okay? So here's Toronto criminal. It says 0 because there are no clients under that group. So let me go ahead and look at my contacts. As I said, it's really easy to search for any information within uLaw as long as you know the name. So let's say I'm looking for, let me drill down, I'm going to say Shan. So let's say all I type is Shan. It automatically brings a name search, Shania Twain or Debbie Shan. So you can click on those individual contacts, and you see where it says group for this particular contact. When you click on it, right at the bottom is where it's going to tell you which group this individual is already a part of. That's why it's asking you if you wanted to delete it from that group. So that means that this individual is already part of the representative group. Now, if you wanted to add Debbie to another group, let's say you want to add it to a vendor group, you just hit group, vendor, and now you're going to notice the vendor group go up by 1. When you click on the vendor group, you're going to notice Debbie is also part of that group. And you can associate an individual contact to multiple groups within uLaw. And I think there's a quick question, and maybe I'll take it as it comes along, just to keep this interesting. Or maybe our support staff would go ahead answering that. That's cool. So adding groups, and if you wanted to delete that group, you can always come in here, delete group, and you can choose which particular group. I'm going to say the Toronto Criminal. Delete it. It's going to delete that group, and you're going to notice it's not available anymore. Okay? So before I even start creating a new contact and adding information, easy to search, create groups, and you can always associate contacts to different groups by hitting the group button, and you can add them to those different groups that you've created, or you can delete them from a particular group that you've associated them with. So let's go ahead and add a new client. To do that, let's hit new contact and add this contact to the clients group. I'll say Mr. Rodney Marsh. Now, for a deeper dive about the types of information that you can store for Rodney Marsh, you can actually have a nickname. Let's say Rod is his nickname. Some of the court forms do ask for an AKA or a nickname. So this information gets stored in uLaw, and we're also able to populate those types of forms. So that's as granular as uLaw can get. So this is your nickname or your AKA name. You could have your marital status. So in certain forms, we automatically are able to fill what that is. We go to the extent of also being able to fill your age, or the contact's age, or the client's age. So if you've decided to tell us what the date of birth is for this individual, we are then able to fill the age on the court form. Now, if you are representing a corporation, as you often sometimes may have to, you're just going to click on this, it is a corporation or is it a corporation question mark checkbox, and you can always say Bell Canada. Okay, and then you can start filling. Bell Canada becomes your client, and it's going to be a corporate client, so it's not an individual client. But if it's actually going to be an individual who you're representing, then you do not check that box. You give that individual's name, is whatever additional information like you provide. You can always hide this to keep it simple. A very new feature in uLaw allows us to capture how you received this client as a client. How did they know about you? What was the source of that client or contact? Okay, what is the referral source? And you can tell us there was a client referral, and in the notes section, say client by client, Marshall. Okay, a little noted for yourself. And the Law Society does ask you to provide an address or a communication address. I'm just going to go ahead and fill that information. And you must have seen this, us do this in most of our demos. You can provide a postal code. Now you can classify the address to homework or other, just to differentiate that. Let me go ahead and mark this as a work address. But the most important aspect of it is being able to mark that address as a mailing address if that is the case. Okay? And if you need to add additional addresses, you can click on the Add button, and you can do so. But the mailing address is the address that gets used in court form filling, as well as the billing information that you send across. As you can see, we do have a smart dictionary for our province. You can type in AB, ON, Ontario, and we have a smart dictionary for the countries as well. And notice that you can only mark one of them as the mailing address at any time. Again, that's very important. You can always store the phone information, and with the uLaw app almost becomes your personal phone book for all of your legal contacts. And as you start in the future docketing time with the uLaw, this becomes much more easier. Today, you can actually call your contact right from the uLaw app, so storing the phone information is going to be really helpful. So let's make that the mobile phone. And again, if they have an email website, you can put that in here. Let me go ahead and save. And I'm going to show you some of the more pertinent features of uLaw as you've created that contact. And I'm going to walk you through what other information you can save about that contact as well. So once that contact has been saved, it's going to bring that particular contact in its fullest context. So you've got Rodney Marsh. That's the name of the new client that we just added. I'm just going to keep it focused. You see R for Rodney Marsh, aka Rod. Okay. You've got the English, you've got the source of contact, and in your notes you have it's referred by a client, Marshall Rodney. The address, you have the mailing address that's explicitly mentioned, and the work address. It's easier for you to look at. You can click on phone, and if you have a voice over IP phone with your telephone, with your laptop, you can actually call them directly from here. You can add Rodney Marsh to different other groups, but I'm not going to do that right now. A very important aspect to uLaw and the contacts is the action button. As soon as you've created a new contact or a client, before you represent them, the Law Society would like you to do a conflict screening. And right under conflict screening, we have a very simple conflict screening, which just checks for first name, last name. Or we're one of the very few products that allows you to do a very convoluted conflict screening, which is we check for whether you've created a matter for Rodney. We will also go to the extent of checking if you ever came across a Rodney Marsh or someone who sounds similar. Okay, so it's a little bit more thorough, detailed check of the conflict. You know, there's a few Marshalls, so it looks at a few last name conflicts and says there is a Joanne Marshall that you have come across. There are a few Tom Rodneys. There's a Jonathan Rodney, and that's what it's really picked. And the next file that we've sent to you is, all right, it says there's a partial name that appears in an existing matter. Rodney was a State Farm, so it looks like you have worked on someone like Rodney, and you actually represented them. If you notice, interesting enough, you've got the file number associated with that matter. Okay, so it's a deeper search, deeper dive, and you can use that in our QuickView. You know, we spoke about how QuickView is the fastest way for you to search for any information. Even before you move forward with Rodney Marsh, you can jump into our QuickView, and that's all I need to know is Rodney. I'm hoping that Rodney is an active client, and there you go. All I typed was R-O-D-N-E, and there's Rodney, was a State Farm, and it was the same file that we were referencing, 420287, and that's the file number, and you can click on it right away. It tells you all pertinent information, when it was created, and it's still an active file. When was the last modified date? So when was the last time you actually worked on this file? Okay, and if there's a court file number, it tells you that as well. Any description, it was a bad accident, and it's obviously for an insurance. You're going to click on it. It takes you right into that matter for you to do further investigation to make sure that Rodney Marsh is not a conflict, or if he is, you know what the information is. Okay, so you make an informed decision. So that's the power of the conflict screening feature with the uLaw and how it goes hand in glove with the QuickView and other components of uLaw to give you that holistic view of that information you need. Okay? Now for some hidden gems. Okay, so these are really standard features and functionalities that you probably will have to use across uLaw. So let's take an example of Adam Brown, totally different individual. Now this guy obviously has multiple matters, and that's what I know. So let's say you worked on a particular matter or a particular client or contact, and he or she has multiple matters. We have this question mark, which is a new feature that we see right across uLaw. And if you click on the uLaw Insight, let's say there's a new legal admin who's just started in your office, or you're just catching up after a long break. This right away tells you, okay, that you currently have, that's the total number of matters that you have for client payment. He owes you in one particular matter. How much does he owe you for? He owes you $565. Okay. How much have you invoiced this guy so far across all matters? That's the amount that you've invoiced. So right within the context of this contact, uLaw is able to tell you all the information you need about this contact. So if this guy hasn't paid you on time, or if he owes you quite a bit of money, and this is where you can look at that information. And you know what? One step further, if the individual is willing to pay you, and let's say there's money associated with it, you just saw that action button change. You've got these two new options, which you didn't have with Rodney Marsh because there's no matter with Rodney Marsh right now. But if you look at this client, which is a very familiar client, you've been working with them for a while, you get these two options. You can accept a client payment by clicking on client payment, and it brings up the client payment screen right away. You can even accept a retainer. Okay? And when you accept a client payment, we handle very convoluted workflows. You can accept a payment towards a particular matter. You could say, you know what, that's the test refund issue. He owes you that money. So I'm going to say $100. He wrote me a check. And uLaw would automatically associate the amount where it's best in your interest. It goes into your general account. You can give him a receipt, hit apply. There you go. Even without getting into the matter, right from the context of the contact, you can take his payment. And you can do the same thing with the retainer. So let's say a client calls you and it's like, hey, I'm Adam Brown. And I speak with the lawyer, and they're like, he's not in the office today. Can I help you? Or you can quickly search for that individual's information. Say, you know what? I can see here, sir, you're, may help you to get a retainer. The guy's willing to pay you the retainer. You can take it right here. Now let's go back to our example of Rodney Marsh. There's a few more things that you can generate for Rodney Marsh even before you jump into the matter. And again, not a lot of our clients know that they can do this, and this webinar was actually intended so that we can have a deeper dive and showcase those features. You can actually generate envelopes in uLaw. Some of our clients know that, many of them don't. So if you have the actual envelope in the printer, and let's say, I'm just going to give you a different example. I'm going to say, so here are the different types of envelopes. We even have a question mark for that, which tells you what each of these mean and the different sizes they come in. Very interesting tidbits. Let's say I want to generate a DL. I could plan to include my phone number and my email, and I can actually generate envelopes so that, you don't have to hand type this. And there you go. This is your information as the lawyer or paralegal. Your address has your phone number and your email included, and this is the contact for whom you're generating that envelope. Okay? And you can see that we've done that for various types. You can do the same thing for labels. You can, and I believe this goes along with the standard, the Canadian standard for labels. And there you go. You can print this on your label printer. So it's a very pragmatic console, the contacts panel. It really allows you to generate, it gives you multiple facets to what's being used across these features. So there's a legal component, and there's a practice management component to it as well. So if you wanted to generate a list of contacts, you can do that for an individual. You can do that for a particular group. So you want to understand who are all the health practitioners or maybe all the respondents. So you're really interested, I want to take a quick printout of all the respondents, you can do that. You can generate that print. Or if you want to take a printout of all your contacts, you can do that. Okay? There is no fee book, obviously, because you've not even started. But there's interestingly a source of contact report, and you can do that over a week, or you can do it for the entire month. And that would tell you where are your contacts or clients coming from. What's the best lead source? Reviewing that is going to allow you to spend your marketing dollars better. And here's a quick list of all of your respondents. Angelina Jones, you've got her. Again, you've got your source of contact. Angelina Jones was a walk-in. That's her address. It's her phone number. You've got Chad Spell, also a walk-in. You got Hudson Brown from an internet advertising, so maybe you want to spend a little bit more money on that because it seems to be working. And here's a quick list of the source of contact report. It tells you, hey, for the month of January, 33% of your client has come from an external referral, and almost 70% has come from a client referral. Okay, that's the spread. And the not categorized are ones where you don't tell us what the source of contact is. So we've kind of covered very high-level dashboard. We've kind of covered the contact. I have maybe 14 minutes left. I want to jump into the calendar because I think we looked at the quick view, but I can jump into it real quick as well. So the contacts panel, before I let go of this particular feature, as I said, allows you to be that entry point where you create that client. You're able to do the conflict screening, generate reports that are pertinent at this stage of that client intake. You can accept payments, accept retainers. It gives you a deeper dive insight by clicking on the question mark. Everything that you need to know about the health of that particular client. You can generate reports that are important. And last but not the least, this information is also available on your mobile phone. And once you're all set to create that matter, it also gives you the segue to click on the matter button and move ahead and create that matter for Rodney Marsh. Right here, associated to a particular area of practice, and hit save. So the contact is a very powerful and a very intuitive feature functionality with the uLaw. That's a great segue to the matter, and the matter obviously is a great segue to our accounts. The quick view, as we quickly noticed during our conflict screening example, gives you the matter information. That's all there is. Quick and easy way for you to search for any matter-related information. And as you can see in uLaw, to save efficiencies and to build that for our clients, we always look at the active files. But let's say you want to look at all of your closed files. You can go ahead and do that. This is going to list all of your closed files. And you can do that obviously for your archived. And these are just different statuses that you can provide. A closed matter is the one that you may revisit for that client. An archived one is where you think that you're never going to repeat such a matter or a client or with that client. Okay? And the active clients are obviously the ones that you're currently working on. So classifying them and being able to search for them in real life like this just makes it easier. And as I mentioned, you can also export that information. So we give you all this information. You can say all matters or just for the matters that have created, let's say, for the course of the last 4 months. And we give it to you in an Excel sheet. So it's easy for you to consume. And if you at any time wanted to look at the work in progress, so let's say you want to say, for this week, I want to look at, maybe I'll do it for the month. I want to look at my work in progress report, and that's available right under our quick view as well. So here's our first document, which allows you to completely export all of the active matters into an Excel sheet for you to look at it offline if you needed to. And we've also generated a work in progress report. So that's your work in progress report for the month. So for the Binho client, you've got $1,200 of a flat fee that you've yet to raise an invoice. And that's the Excel sheet with all the information. Let's just quickly jump back into work in progress. So right now you've got one client for whom you've got unbilled flat fee, and you've got another client for whom you've got unbilled hours of 710. So that indicates and tells you that you should probably go ahead and finish the work, raise the invoice, and make the money. Okay? And for the last component of today's presentation, which is the calendar, you can set the default view of your calendar right under your settings. Okay? So right under settings, you have your calendar, and you can set your default view to be monthly. And once you set that to be monthly, when you come into your calendar, every time you jump into your calendar, it's going to give you a monthly view. Okay, so you can see it's a very packed January for me. You can always change it to the week, the day, the agenda week, the agenda day, right here with the uLaw calendar tabs. But every time someone logs in, you can set a default view for yourself. Importantly enough, this is a combination of time dockets and personal time being calendarized here. We have a feature under calendar where it says hide the time dockets. So if you wanted to have a much more clearer view of your personal time that's not associated with any matters, you can do so by just unchecking that box. If you want to bring back all your time dockets, in here and say show time dockets. It's going to show you all the time dockets for that particular month. At any time, you can click on that particular calendar event. You can edit it. You can set yourself for the different times. If you want to create a new calendar event, let's say for the 18th of January, you can set yourself for repetitive events. You could say this repeats itself daily, weekly. I apologize for that. I'm not quite sure what happened, but I'm just back. And as I was walking you through the calendar, you can actually set up events that repeat themselves. We have clients who use the repeat feature for even personal agendas, like exercising and things like that. So that's a really cool feature with the uLaw that allows you to create that. Outside of, as I mentioned, outside of the calendarization aspects to it, you also have other aspects to our calendar, and this is what you do to synchronize our dockets. You can click on the sync dockets, and you can even specify the date range for which you want to synchronize it. And when you hit the sync button, we generate an international calendar standard, or an ICS, that can then be integrated with your Gmail. It can be integrated with your Outlook. You can push that down to your phone. Every time you generate that, we automatically send you an email that's associated with your account. There you go. Here's your calendar, uLaw event notification. And you can quickly add it to your Google Calendar. And we use Google at uLaw. So it makes it that much more simpler and easier for you. So look at that phone conversation with Steffi came right in from my uLaw account into my local phone. And once you have the uLaw app and it's free and you can download it on the Android and iOS App Store, it quickly integrates with your local phone's calendar as well. Now, besides the ability for you to docket time and calendarize, right under Action, we provide very important and documents that our clients really appreciate. So if you look at the Client and Service Summary, which is right under here, over a date range. So for the month of January, I could quickly look at a quick summary of the client and service that I've done. So who have I serviced for that particular month? This gives me a quick view of everyone that I have worked for this particular month so far. So I've worked for Ms. Binho, I've done a matter for Mr. Joey Tribbiani, done work for Alex, Mr. Stephen, and it also tells you the billable hours, but it also tells you, very importantly, the estimated hours. So this is the time that you spent or plan to spend if this is in the future, and this is the actual time that you charge the client. Okay? It tells you clearly total estimated hours, total billable hours, and this is great news that there are no non-billable hours. So if you did any pro bonos, we capture that as well, and we can give you that report to what you've done. And it gives you an overall service summary as well. Lawyers, legal counsels, and paralegals in the firm have that much. If you have assistants and admins who are a part of your legal firm, you can also capture and summarize the work and effort that's gone into your firm based on the classification of the work. And that's me, Mr. Roger Moore, and that's my total estimated hours. And we also date and timestamp it. So this is a very important and meaningful report right under my calendar, and that's because it's all time-based and date-based. I can do just individual client summaries, service summaries, or I can even generate timesheets for this month. We found a lot of our clients, their end clients do ask them for timesheets, or maybe it's the way you manage your legal firm, and you can always generate that quickly. This gives you a very detailed report of the time spent for this particular month. Okay, so here's that. On the 2nd of January, I met with Ben, the estimated time, the actual build time. On the 3rd, I met with Mr. Joey Tribbiani. That's the estimated time. That was the spent time. So it kind of gives you by date the total breakdown of the timesheet. Very powerful click of a button. Okay, to summarize before I close this webinar for today, we touched upon the dashboard and how it's so important for you to stay on top of what's most important and how it gets you to where you need to be faster within uLaw. We touched upon contacts and how it's the entry point into uLaw. It allows you to create your clients, create groups, make it easier for you to search for information, but also understand at any time a deeper dive information by using our question mark about that particular contact, and pragmatic features of being able to generate envelopes and other reports, including the source of contact. Our QuickView, which is an easy, fast way to search for any matter-related information, and it's a free text search. You just type whatever you know, and we bring up that information by matching it. And last but not the least, calendar and how it can be used for both your legal docket time as well as your personal time, and how it can synchronize with third-party calendars, third-party phones and other external systems. And you're also able to generate your timesheets as well as your client and service summaries right within our calendar. Okay. With that, I'm going to open the chat window for any questions that you may have. And thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I think there's a question from Roger. The support staff, if you wouldn't mind quickly answering Roger. I think there's a question about when a matter is entered and the new date of a trial, etc., I would appreciate if you could kindly answer that through the chat window, just making it easier. I think the question is about why does it always show the uncompleted matter that's not been invoiced for. And Roger, what we can do is, given the time, we will get back to you with answering that particular question. Just a quick question about, is it possible to import information from PC Law? Yes. We are able to import contacts. We're able to import the information from PC Law, and we've done that for many clients who have migrated from PC Law. Please feel free to give us a shout back or send us an email, and we're happy to work with you on that. Our email is support. I'm just going to put it on my chat window. Good question. What about the synchronization with OneNote? That's in our roadmap. When you look at our matters, which is where it's going to be, you see we're going to be bringing another tab here called Notes, and those are notes that you can take when you're at court right from your mobile phone, because we see a lot of legal professionals take notes either as preparation or as quick things to remind themselves to even speak at the courthouse. So the notes are going to be there, and I know some of our clients, including Roger, are power users of OneNote, and hence that's going to be integrated very similar to our integration with Google Drive. Yes, we are. I mean, we do have clients who are experts in immigration, and they do use uLaw, and it is used by immigration lawyers, and we're happy to answer any specific questions that you may have. If you can maybe expand a little bit more about what you mean by customize. But yes, we do work with lawyers who do immigration. Yep, we do integrate with Outlook. So if you actually looked at this calendar synchronization, so I do have my inbox open right now. Let's say I do have Outlook open right now. And when I do my synchronization of the dockets, and let's assume I'm going to do it for today. Let me first go look at what I have for today. Or I could do it for the week, keeping it simple. Sync dockets. I'm going to do it for weekly. I'm just going to hit sync. And when you do that, two things happen. One is we do send you an email, but another important thing happens is we also send you an ICS file that you can open right within the laptop or desktop that you're using uLaw. If you're not using a laptop or a desktop, then you would use the email version of our thing. And here is our quick notification right within Outlook about that second client meeting. Okay, so that's how you quickly are able to bring all your calendar information into Outlook if you have Outlook in the machine that you're using. I hope that answers that question. Yes, I think I showed this. We are able to integrate with Google Calendar. So if you look at our email, so as soon as you synchronize that docket, we send you an email. And right here you could say add to the calendar. The Jan 11th second client meeting. I'm adding it to my calendar, which is my Google Calendar, because we use Google here at uLaw. And it's saved into my Google Calendar. All these, reminder about tonight's meeting is all from my, from everything that I did right now. Okay. So it's just a one-step process. It's just for you to be able to go into uLaw, click on synchronization. If you're using Outlook, you can quickly click on the ICS file. If you're using Google, you would look at our email and sync that into your Google Gmail. Okay. Well, if there's all the questions for today, again, thank you very much for joining us for yet another uLaw webinar. Please do check us at ulawpractice.com/webinar, and we do offer sessions the following week, and on the final Friday of the month, we do offer our CPD, which is Disbursements Demystified, which has been accredited by CPD for 1 hour of CPD credits. Thank you very much, and have yourself a great weekend.